Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, unraveling the complexities of human history and the triumphs of our collective past. Today, we delve into one of the most pivotal and devastating conflicts in European history: the 30 Years' War. This tumultuous period, spanning from 1618 to 1648, was a maelstrom of political, religious, and social upheaval that would forever alter the landscape of Europe. As we set out to explore this fascinating era, let us first immerse ourselves in the historical context that gave rise to this conflagration. The early 17th century was a time of great turmoil, as the Protestant Reformation, sparked by Martin Luther's courageous stance in 1517, continued to reverberate across the continent. The Holy Roman Empire, a vast and complex entity that stretched from the Alps to the Baltic Sea, was a tapestry of disparate states, cities, and principalities, each with its own unique cultural and religious identity. In the years leading up to the war, the empire was beset on all sides by tensions between Catholics and Protestants. The Peace of Augsburg, signed in 1555, had established the principle of cuius regio, ius religio, allowing each state to determine its own official religion. However, this fragile peace was increasingly strained as Protestantism continued to spread throughout the empire. The Catholic Church, under the leadership of Pope Paul V, grew more militant in its response to the Protestant threat, while Protestant leaders like Frederick V, the Elector Palatine, began to organize their own defenses against Catholic aggression. One of the key flashpoints in this conflict was the city of Prague, capital of Bohemia, where a predominantly Protestant population chafed under the rule of the Catholic Emperor Ferdinand II. In 1618, a group of Protestant nobles, led by Count Thurn, stormed the royal palace in Prague and threw two imperial officials, along with their secretary, out of a window, an event known as the Defenestration of Prague. This dramatic act of defiance marked the beginning of the Bohemian Revolt, which would soon spread to other parts of the empire. The intricate web of alliances and rivalries that bound these leaders together would ultimately lead to a war that would ravage the continent, leaving deep scars that would take centuries to heal. Emperor Ferdinand II, a staunch Catholic and zealous proponent of the Counter-Reformation, saw the war as an opportunity to consolidate his authority and crush the Protestant opposition. Frederick V, the Elector Palatine, on the other hand, believed that the war was a chance to assert his own power and secure recognition for the Protestant cause. As we explore the earliest history of the 30 Years' War, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex and dynamic landscape, where the fates of empires and nations hung in the balance. The year 1618 was a watershed moment, marking the beginning of a conflict that would draw in nations and empires from across the continent, including Sweden, France, and Spain. The war would test the mettle of leaders, challenge the faith of believers, and forever alter the course of human events. As we conclude our examination of the precursors and origins of the 30 Years' War, we are poised on the threshold of a pivotal moment in European history. The stage is set for a conflict that will shake the foundations of the Holy Roman Empire, redraw the map of Europe, and leave an indelible mark on the course of human history. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we continue our journey through the tumultuous landscape of the 30 Years' War. As we delve into the heart of this transformative era, we find ourselves in a world of shifting alliances, epochal battles, and seismic shifts that would forever alter the course of European history. In the early 1620s, the war began to spread beyond the borders of Bohemia, drawing in other states and empires from across the continent. The Danish king, Christian IV, entered the conflict on the side of the Protestants, hoping to gain control of the strategic territories along the Elbe River. However, his armies were ultimately defeated by the Catholic forces led by the brilliant and ruthless General Albrecht von Wallenstein. As the war raged on, the Swedish king, Gustav II Adolf, emerged as a major player in the conflict. A devout Lutheran and skilled military leader, Gustav II Adolf saw the war as an opportunity to protect his co-religionists and secure Sweden's position as a major power in Europe. His intervention in 1630 marked a significant turning point in the conflict, as his armies swept across Germany, winning decisive victories at Breitenfeld and Lutzen. The period between 1630 and 1635 was one of intense military activity, with multiple fronts and shifting alliances. The Catholic forces, led by Wallenstein, and later by Ferdinand II's son, Ferdinand III, clashed with the Protestant armies, led by Gustav II Adolf and his able generals, Johann Banner and Lennart Torstensson. The war became a complex web of battles, sieges, and skirmishes, with cities like Magdeburg, Mainz, and Heidelberg changing hands multiple times. One of the most significant consequences of this period was the devastation wrought upon the German population. As armies marched back and forth across the countryside, crops were destroyed, villages were burned, and civilians were slaughtered or forced to flee. The war had become a total conflict, with no distinction between soldiers and non-combatants. By 1635, it's estimated that the population of Germany had declined by as much as 30%, with some regions suffering even more catastrophic losses. Despite the atrocities committed during this period, there were also moments of remarkable courage and resilience. The city of Augsburg, for example, was besieged by Catholic forces in 1634, but its defenders held out against overwhelming odds, eventually forcing the attackers to withdraw. Similarly, the Swedish army's victory at the Battle of Wittstock in 1636 marked a major turning point in the war, as Gustav II Adolf's forces defeated a combined Catholic and Imperial army, securing a crucial advantage for the Protestant cause. The conflict has become a pan-European struggle, with multiple empires and states vying for power and influence. The war has also taken on a distinctly ideological tone, with Catholics and Protestants locked in a bitter struggle for supremacy. How will the empires and states of Europe emerge from the ashes of war? And what lasting legacy will the 30 Years' War leave on the course of human history? Join me next as we explore the decline and aftermath of the 30 Years' War, and examine the profound and enduring impact it had on European society. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we conclude our journey through the tumultuous landscape of the 30 Years' War. As we explore the decline and aftermath of this devastating conflict, we find ourselves in a world forever changed by the ravages of war. The year 1635 marked a significant turning point in the conflict, as the Treaty of Prague was signed, bringing a temporary peace between the Protestant states and the Holy Roman Empire. However, this fragile peace was short-lived, as Sweden and France continued to support the Protestant cause, while Spain and the Empire sought to crush the rebellion once and for all. In 1643, the Swedish army, now led by Johann Banner, launched a series of successful campaigns against the imperial forces, culminating in the Battle of Jankowitz, where they defeated a combined Imperial and Bavarian army. This victory paved the way for the eventual defeat of the Empire and the signing of the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. The Treaty of Westphalia marked the official end of the 30 Years' War, bringing a measure of peace to a devastated Europe. The treaty recognized the independence of Switzerland and the Netherlands from the Holy Roman Empire, while also establishing the principle of sovereignty for all states. The war had left deep scars, with estimates suggesting that the population of Germany had declined by as much as 40% during the conflict. One of the most significant consequences of the war was the decline of the Holy Roman Empire, which would never again be a dominant force in European politics. The empire's power was broken, and its territories were carved up among the various states that had emerged from the conflict. The war also marked the rise of new powers, such as Sweden and France, which would play major roles in shaping European history for centuries to come. As we reflect on the aftermath of the 30 Years' War, it is clear that this conflict had a profound impact on European society. The war led to significant advances in military technology, including the development of more effective artillery and infantry tactics. It also spurred innovations in fields such as medicine, where the need to treat wounded soldiers drove advances in surgical techniques and hospital care. The war also had a profound impact on the cultural and intellectual landscape of Europe. The devastation wrought by the conflict led to a growing sense of disillusionment with the idea of a unified Christendom, paving the way for the rise of secularism and the Enlightenment. The war also saw the emergence of new forms of artistic expression, such as the works of the German poet and playwright Andreas Gryphius, who captured the horrors and tragedies of the conflict in his writing. As we conclude our journey through the 30 Years' War, we are left with a profound sense of the devastating consequences of this conflict. The war had left Europe scarred, its people shattered by the experience of unimaginable violence and destruction. And yet, even amidst the ruins, there were glimmers of hope. Hope that the horrors of the past could be learned from, and that a brighter future might emerge from the ashes of war. In the words of the great historian, Leopold von Ranke, he can't foy. The 30 Years' War was a crisis of European society, which shook the foundations of the old order and prepared the way for the emergence of new forces and ideas. As we reflect on this pivotal moment in human history, we are reminded that even in the darkest of times, there is always the possibility for transformation and renewal. Join me next time on History with Herodotus as we explore more fascinating stories from the past. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.